time you'll see it actually vote on will be June the 14th.
I'm always about one, but I should 3.
11 o'clock on the other. So it's 11 o'clock and we'll start a work session. This morning is just about to present to City Council for their information my recommendations from the short-term rental committee. And then I took the short-term rental committee, my recommendations for the most part, stricter than the short-term rental committee's recommendations. This isn't a question and answer period. Y'all can answer about my thought process along with me if you want to. We will have a work session on May the 10th, which will be the next council meeting, to talk about, after you've had a couple of weeks to read it as a council member and digest it, to talk about any thing you want to bring into changes you might want to try to get made. I guess maybe the 10th we'll have it more of a ordinance format.
Well,
or do you think it's easier to do it this way the first time?
So on May 10th, what we'd like to do is hear back from City Council after we've had a few weeks to process this and see if there are any kind of broad areas of agreement, and then sort out which areas there are agreement, which areas there's disagreement, so we can refine them and turn them into ordinances. We don't want to draft any ordinances until we had a general idea where City Council falls on the various things. So
That's definitely down the work session.
but
And then the work session, I like kind of an updated copy and kind of go by where the consensus lies.
yeah, at the work session, we'll come back with this and say,
Copy.
we'll come back and say, okay, guys, you had 2 weeks to think about recommendation number 1. How do you feel about that? And then all 7 people say we love it, and we'll say, what about recommendation number 2?
So we're doing that at the work session, not before. I was thinking you wanted to email before, so we had maybe something at the work session to kind of chew around.
At the work session.
Yeah.
Keep it
Keep it open.
Easy enough.
So, I'll just go through this real quick. It will be out in the public after the day. It will be posted on the city website after this meeting. So, first thing I want to say is, for everybody, this has nothing to do with the rezoning areas of island commercial, downtown commercial, nothing to do with zoning at all. This is not a zoning ordinance. This is a business license ordinance. And so all the signs and the letters that went out about zoning, this has nothing to do with that. I've had several calls, I know other people have had calls about this being confused, one is saying it's the other, and it's not. This has nothing to do with zoning. So, that being said, first I'd like to say thank you to the short-term rental committee for the work y'all did. And, you know, you made it my life easier going through this. Appreciate it. But plus you've got a lot of input from the residents in other areas. So I'll just go back, like page 1. My proposal is to include all 4% properties as part of the cap. And the reason being is, you know, we're creating a cap, and you have to, at some point, you have to decide whether you want the island to be residential or you want the island to be commercial. So that's a decision you have to make. So when you make the cap, if you want the island commercialized, throw this piece of paper away. If you want it residential, which most people are out here to live out here, want to keep it more residential, then this is the way to do it. So we make a cap, we keep the playing field level for everybody, you fall under the cap. Next, recommendation 2, in fact, we're making no winners and no losers. So all existing licenses on the day the ordinance is passed will be able to remain and be renewed until that piece of property ownership is transferred. So the transfer of ownership the current licenses, you do not get to transfer the license with the transfer of the property. So, and I'm proposing too that any license for a 4% property owner that does not show at least $1,000 worth of income will be considered inactive. And any license for a 6% property, that's a short-term rental property that's over where they can rent more than 72 days a year, that does not show a documented income of at least $3,000 will be considered inactive. Once it's put inactive, you lose your license. You go back, you get into a line to wait to get licenses back under the cap. And when there again on there, it says all future licenses shall be determined under the cap system. No special privilege for future licenses shall be created. And that is to help not create artificial inflation in property values. I am taking the short-term rental committee's suggestion of not using HOAs as part of the cap and say, no, everybody that has a license will be under the cap. Again, it's just making a level playing field for everybody that has a license. But if you live in an HOA that allows short-term rentals and you get a rental license, you'll be under the cap number, not free and clear. And there's many HOAs that trying to get away from short-term rentals. I know Pease Island did, and Mariners Cave is working on it by attrition. As you sell your property, the license goes away. You can't do it. So that's HOA can do that. That's fine. But if you have a license at Charleston Oceanfront Villas, then you're under the cap. Or any other places have the HOA.
So if the city.
So the next part is probably where everybody has a question, but that's what I was basing my numbers on was going back to 2020. The basic number for a cap proposed of 900 for 2,389 units out here on the beach. And that would be slightly lower than the 2020 levels, but it's only lower by the number of 23. In 2020, there was 923 licenses issued. That was then to make it an even number of 900. That new cap would be 15% of the 4% properties versus 14.9% of the 4% properties in 2020, and 50% of the 6% properties versus 51% of the 6% properties in 2020. Late renewals will lose preferred status and be subject to the cap and get in line. Inactive licenses would lose renewal, as I said before. Once attrition lowers the number of licenses to allowed number, then we go to the list. And Kiowa has a system in place that's serving as a pretty good model of when you get on the list, the waiting list. So if you're the next in line, if you have the oldest, or yes, that's the way to say it, the oldest application, so you'd be top of the list, then you get an application and the list moves up. Recommending that we increase the fees associated with short-term rentals. A fee of $1,000 annually for 4% property owners and $2,000 annually for 6% property owners, and this is different, separate fees from the business license. These fees can be used to fund services that short-term rentals create by tourists. It also can be used to fund people to manage this program. So we can use these fees to hire employees to manage this program. In a fee schedule with the 1,000 versus 2,000 for the 4%ers is because of the limited number of nights they can rent. So you only got 72 or less nights a year. much takes that one. Now, the next one is everybody's been hollering about making it more teeth in the rental license business and management. So, what my proposal is gonna be to make all rental violations subject to a $500 civil ticket, not a criminal ticket. And so every time we now call a strike, you get a $500 civil ticket. So every ticket you get counts as a strike. After 3 tickets or 3 strikes in a rolling 12-month period, then the city can revoke the business license of that. Oh. Yeah, and each conviction, when you get a ticket, constitutes a strike. So you get a ticket, you go to the judge, if you're convicted with a civil ticket, then it's a strike. Thank you. I should have highlighted that. So, local later on, you'll see that you have to have a local agent that can answer an emergency call within 30 minutes to manage or be part of the management of the property. And in here it says, if a local agent cannot appear on site or respond to an emergency, this says 2 hours, that was a scrivener's error, that should have been changed to 30 minutes. So an emergency, that's a ticket. That constitutes a ticket. If advertising for less than 3 nights, or whatever, however many minimum nights we fall on, then that would constitute a ticket. So, that's down to just some examples. If you have a lot of noise complaints, there's civil tickets. And later on, we talk about changes from criminal to civil tickets and why. So again, since we don't have a lot of city staff to manage short-term rentals or rentals period, we will see what the number of staff we need if we start collecting these fees and go there. Now these people would be working including weekends and nights, so the staff would be here or available to do code enforcement on rental licenses on the weekends and nights, not just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So this staff will have a rotating shift or work schedule. And also, I'm recommending that before you get a rental license, you have to show proof of paid up accommodation tax accounts. So you have to be up to date on paying your forfeit or your accommodations tax. Down further, we just mostly comes from the short-term rental committee. I added a piece in here. They are talking about requiring parking spaces must be delineated on property with a minimum of front and stop bumper, city approved method, blah, blah, blah. I also recommend that the property owner be required to submit and post the maximum number of vehicles that can be parked on a site. So if you can only get 3 vehicles on your site without parking all over the top of your septic tank, then that's the maximum number of vehicles you can get on your site. You know, whatever the maximum legal number of vehicles you can park on your site is. Okay, so the next one is about the local agents. I'm proposing that we require property to be managed by someone with a South Carolina property manager in charge license or a realtor license. The state recognizes either one of those as licensed property manager. Require that all property agents be able to respond within 30 minutes of an emergency call. If the fire department's calling you or the police department's calling you, you can't be here within 30 minutes, you're not going to be helping them at all handle emergencies on your property. So if you live in New York and you're doing Airbnbs, you're going to have to hire somebody locally to help manage your property. That'll help a lot of some of our problems, solve some of our problems. And of course, state property licenses, managed agents are held to professional standards throughout the state. Now, the next one is we recommend that we utilize a more flexible, quicker way to notify people. So we'll still have to do certified mail, I'm sure, but, you know, we can also, by having somebody here within 30 minutes, we can notify them, send emails, but, we will do that as fast as we can, and with the new staff members, that will help get those information out quicker to the property owners. Now, I'm recommending that we change the noise, and the short-term rental committee recommended this too. We change the noise violations from a criminal violation to a civil violation. But that takes away jail time, but it allows code enforcement officers to write noise tickets for noise violations, and it probably makes it easier to get them into municipal court quicker. And it also makes it a true city code. So the next recommendation is, I'm recommending it, and it's strictly right out of the short-term rental committee advice or recommendation. And so is the one I just talked about, change it from a criminal code to a civil code violation. The short-term rental committee recommended 3-night requirements. I know some folks were thinking maybe that needs to be 2 nights for a short weekend, but we'll talk about that in May. But there will be a minimum number of required nights that you can have. So these places that are renting it by the hour or half a day or a day, they might only show up for a half a day, but they're gonna have to pay for
We have hourly rentals.
Evidently, we had one that was only rented for part of the day, so I'm assuming they said 4 hours or 6 hours.
I had to
I
cut
heard
100
you-
yards before that.
I heard you was renting about an hour there, Steve. So the next one is, we will not recommend or not, and this comes from the short-term rental committee too. No, licenses will be given to anyone who has not received a certificate of occupancy. So you can't come in and say, I'm gonna build on this yard, I wanna buy a license. You get a license after you get a certificate of occupancy. The next one is recommendation from the short-term rental committee, with one little caveat that I added, that all licensed short-term rentals have to be inspected by a third-party inspection to verify that the property meets the 2018 property management code. And I added in there that all first-time licenses will only be issued after a documented inspection is shown, and that has to be within the last 12 months. This inspection, so everybody doesn't panic, you'll see it's kind of like pretty general, pretty broad. Smoke alarms, carbon monoxide monitors, fire extinguishers, the number of bedrooms, number of parking spaces, some structural elements, so maybe we'll catch the porch before it falls like we did last year. Trash receptacles, et cetera, house numbers posted, posting the rules and regulations that need to be posted, and the proper inspection of residential sprinklers if they are in the building. There's no requirement in South Carolina right now that you have to have residential sprinklers, but some places have them, so if they are there, then they'll have to go check and make sure that they've all been properly inspected. The short-term rental committee was recommending the septic tank capacity documentation. I go along with that. So you will have to have your septic tank capacity documented, and that will also go along with the number of bedrooms and all that. It's been referenced back in here. One recommendation that did not come from the short-term rental committee, that's strictly from from my office is, recommended the number of bedrooms that you put on your license applications, you have to have data that shows that that's the number of bedrooms that you are listed on your, tax form from Charleston County. So Charleston County Tax Assessor's Office says, you say you got 3 bedrooms, they say you got 2, you got a problem. So, I think that's easy enough. You're reporting right, honestly on your form, and you ought to have no problem. And the last one, the short-term rental committee and I go along with them. We will continue to develop and have a robust communications plan. Sandsburg, Folly Current, whatever we can do, CDPC site, our site, the electronic board coming in, giving stuff, giving information, new website we're developing, as much information as we can get out there as much as possible. So that's pretty much it for me. Yes, sir?
I wanna know timeline, May 10th, work session,
May 10th work session.
May 10th, first reading,
No, first reading won't show up until June the 14th.
okay, May 10th, work session, June what,
14th will be the next council meeting.
council meeting? We don't have a council meeting in May,
May 10th.
It's a work session.
but we're
before
just
council.
doing,
We're doing a
okay,
work session before.
we're not gonna vote on it that night, so we got,
That's for the feedback from today. Is the 10th.
and for us to talk about it as
Right.
council, any possible amendments or whatever. Then we have to the 14th, this first reading.
Yeah.
This isn't zoning,
No.
so it's not gonna be pending, right? So then we go to July,
We go to July.
if it passes on the
We
14th.
go to July, or if you decide as the council you want to, you can come back with 10 days later and close it
Special meeting,
and get it over with.
or if it's unanimous, can't we have second reading that night?
I wouldn't do that.
Is that rule still valid? If it's
I'd have to go
unanimous?
back and look at that, but that's kind of like, I'll check it to see if it's still valid, but I wouldn't do it that way, personally. But that was, you're thinking back to when we had 3 readings.
Yeah.
So we had a reading, then we had to have a second reading, and then that way you could do it then. So that'd be like having 2 readings. But when you only have 2 readings, I think you're gonna have to wait from one to the other.
You're right, when it was 3 readings on second reading, if it was unanimous, then you could proceed with third.
Right. But I don't believe with us just going back to having two votes, you can do that. So the July meeting would be July the 12th. Any other questions?
Just to be clear, there's no lottery, it's a waiting list, so we
Yeah,
eliminate.
we need to take that word out of it. Yeah. I had an idea for a lottery, and Joe told me quickly, we can't really do that. I was gonna let, we do it, all licenses, withdraw your name and see if you get one this year. Well, no, we're not gonna do that. So that's the way you didn't go on the wait list. All right? Thank you very much. And this has nothing, and I'll say one more time, there's nothing to do with the zoning that's being proposed for Center Street or commercial anyway. Thank you very much. He's gonna say something.
Okay.